You've been hunting for a speaker that can finally fill the room without turning your living room into a concert hall, right? Something that looks as good as it sounds, and that you can actually trust to keep the music tight when you crank up those bass-heavy tracks. I'm going to walk through the KLH Model 5 floor-standing speaker and see if it lives up to those expectations, so you can decide whether it's the right addition to your setup. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Model 5 is built around KLH's classic acoustic suspension design. What that really means for everyday listening is a tighter, more controlled low end. When you're watching a movie scene with a rumbling engine, the bass doesn't just slam into the room, it stays anchored to the source, giving you that punch without the kind of blur you sometimes hear with ported boxes. That's especially handy for folks who use their speakers for both music and home theater, because you get a consistent performance across genres. Another thing I noticed right away is the mid-century modern styling. The speaker has a clean, angular cabinet with a black finish that looks like it was pulled straight from a 1950s design catalog. If you've got a minimalist living space, you'll probably appreciate how it blends in rather than demanding its own spotlight. The magnetic grille is a nice, practical touch too. You can pop it off in a second if you ever need to clean the drivers, and it snaps right back without any tools. The three-way acoustic system is anchored by a dedicated 4-inch pulp paper cone for the mids. In real-world terms, that driver does a solid job of handling vocals and acoustic guitars, keeping them clear and present even when you're sitting 2 rooms away. I tried it with a friend's acoustic set, and the singer's voice stayed front and center without getting lost behind the instruments. It also means you won't have to constantly adjust your EQ. KLH's acoustic balance control does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, letting you enjoy a balanced sound right out of the box. One practical benefit that shows up when you're streaming a lot of podcasts or news shows is the speaker's ability to stay articulate at lower volumes. Some floor standers can be a bit muddy when you turn them down, but thanks to the acoustic suspension design, the Model 5 maintains clarity down to a whisper. That makes it a solid companion for a home office setup where you might be listening while you type, because you won't have to keep raising the volume to hear every word. If you're a gamer, you'll also notice the speaker's precise imaging. The slanted riser base helps direct sound toward your listening position, which translates into a wider soundstage. In a first-person shooter, you can actually pinpoint where an opponent's footsteps are coming from, giving you a tiny edge in immersion. It's not a professional studio monitor, but for a living room gaming session it definitely feels more three-dimensional than a standard TV speaker. Another real-world win is the Model 5's durability. The cabinet is made from high-density MDF, and the magnetic grille adds a layer of protection for the drivers. I've had a couple of curious kids run into the speakers, and the grille held firm, keeping the drivers safe. That kind of robustness means you can place the speaker in a high-traffic family room without constantly worrying about accidental damage. On the plus side, the speaker's bass response is impressively tight. The acoustic suspension design eliminates the boomy low end you sometimes get with larger, ported speakers, so you get a more musical low frequency that feels supportive rather than overwhelming. It also integrates nicely with a modest subwoofer if you ever decide to expand your system. There's enough low-frequency headroom that the sub can add depth without muddying the mids. On the downside, the Model 5 isn't the tiniest floor stander out there, so you'll need a fair amount of floor space to let it breathe. In a cramped apartment, you might have to rearrange furniture just to accommodate the 10-inch cabinet. Also, while the acoustic balance control does a good job overall, some audiophiles who like to fine-tune every frequency might wish for a more granular EQ option built into the speaker itself. It's a trade-off between simplicity and ultimate customization. Overall, the KLH Model 5 feels like a speaker that bridges the gap between style and substance. Its acoustic suspension design delivers a controlled, tight bass that works well for movies, music, and games. The mid-century aesthetic will sit nicely in a variety of decor styles, and the practical features like the magnetic grille and solid build make day-to-day use a breeze. If you value a speaker that sounds good at both high and low volumes, handles a wide range of content, and stays looking sharp, it's definitely worth a closer look. If you're ready to give one a try, just remember the link is in the description below. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next video.